Hi everyone, welcome to our podcast for Black Women Connect Vancouver. Girl, you know it. So I'm the founder of Black Women Connect Vancouver, which started in 2017. And Black Women Connect Vancouver is a collective of women who come to inspire, empower, and leverage our strengths and embrace our diverse experiences. It is a community where we can build meaningful relationships and celebrate the beauty of our Black womanhood. I hope that you enjoy it.
Welcome to another episode of Girl, You Know It. And we have a wonderful guest today. But before we introduce our guest, my name is Palesa.
I'm Elle.
I'm Nataizya.
Awesome. And our wonderful guest today is Kevin. He goes by Kev Joseph on Instagram, and he does a really amazing series of Let's Talk. And you're also based in Toronto, right? If I'm correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, Kevin is awesome. I'm very excited to dig into your brain. But I'm going to ask if you can give us a brief introduction of yourself so our community can know more about you.
Absolutely. Well, it's an honor and pleasure to be on your platform this time. Last time we saw each other, y'all was on my platform. And, we had a great time, throwing up the X, all that fantastic stuff. But, it's an honor to be here. Yes, my name is Kev Joseph. I am accounting and finance consultant for a company that's contracted out to the Canadian federal government. We support the Department of Defense, the Canadian Armed Forces, Treasury Board. I've been in finance and accounting for over 18 years. I've been doing that kind of work for Fortune 500 companies and things of that nature. Also in the community, I've been a mentor to young people, aspiring higher education, levels for around the same time, just really trying to help push, the education as the great equalizer narrative for our Black youth. And last June, I started this, which I thought was just a few conversations regarding a lot of the challenges our world was facing regarding social, injustice, equality, anti-racism, mental health, the pandemic, all these things. And it created this Let's Talk with Kev Joseph platform that has really, taken up and has really accelerated to something that's a lot larger than I anticipated, but really thankful for it. Been able to have tremendous conversations with people from all over the world. Literally, we're talking France, England, the US, the Caribbean, everywhere. So it's been amazing. And I'm really grateful, and being able to connect with you queens, as well, it has always been a pleasure. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Yay, thank you. And did anybody know Kevin before the Let's Talk that we were on for the podcast?
No, I think he reached out to me on Instagram, and so there was a connection somewhere. He knew someone who was following us, and then he asked about Black Women Connect Vancouver, so that's how we met.
Nice. So you were always intrigued by the queens. Okay.
Yeah, you know what?
Get the story right.
Yeah, because you know what, I was always, again, like, especially, I think, I think I reached out to you like months ago before you even came on, just because there's so much was going on, and just trying to find amazing people with amazing stories, and especially Black women, trying to amplify and lift up the voices of Black women. As a Black man, it's something that we need to do more often. So it was incumbent upon me to try to do that. So when I saw what y'all were doing in Vancouver, like, first of all, there's Black girls in Vancouver. It's like, what? I was there in 2011 and I did not see much, but I'm like, because of where I was, and it was just a short business trip. But I mean, wow, powerful work, amazing community, y'all are doing. And it was such an honor to finally connect with the queens from Vancouver.
And I remember you were saying on the Let's Talk when we were on, and you were asking us, I think at the end, what men could do in order to facilitate assisting, women in this endeavor or the plight of women. And I think that having these kinds of discussions is definitely one of those things that can be done, and to have them also very honestly and as truthfully as possible, but to also leave room for, ways to mess up and ways to, go back and either do our own research, or you can come back and say, you know, this was kind of this or incorrect, because we grow and we change. And so I want to give some grace to like that this conversation is very new for a lot of us. And I might stumble over my words because I am a little bit anxious to ask some of these questions. So I just want to preface it with that, but let's jump right in.
Yes.
Awesome. So the first question here, we're going to be kind of defining some terms, but based on you and your understanding, what do you think of the term patriarchy?
Well, when I think of the term patriarchy, there's many different layers to it, but in a general sense, I mean, I think of it as being a sort of, construct, a societal construct where men are in positions of power, of authority, of privilege over women, right? And in terms of the structures that are in place, whether it be political, legal, financial, educational, since the beginning of time, really, it's always, been in favor of the advancement of men. And, women have always been seen as the lesser of the two genders, and by which all of the laws have predominantly been built around, have been built by and implemented by and run by men. So I think it's a whole structure of it. Even for those with faith-based leanings, the father is seen as the source, as seen as the provider, as seen as and then some people take it to like a biological sense where the father is the carrier of the seed, then deposits it into the woman, then the child is born. So all of these things that play into, I think, a society that has been built and sort of framed under the whole premise of, patriarchy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Does anyone else have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, you talking about, a power over, genders. I'm just like coming back to like healthcare and like how like, women make up, half of the population, and, gender is a spectrum, but like women in general, and yet research doesn't happen for women. Lots of things aren't funded. We have to advocate for ourselves in hospitals and to healthcare professionals because they don't believe us. They don't believe our pain. And it's like, I'm not crazy. Like my pain is real. So when you said like the positioning of power over, it was like, oof, talk to my soul a little bit, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, it's how it's been, because by virtue of the perceived notion that, as a man, we think we're stronger, we think we are more powerful, we think we can endure more. Therefore, we feel that we can now, suppress women and put them into boxes and define them as we see fit, right? And that's how it's been since the beginning, really.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also it's because that, maybe we can get into, what's not so great about patriarchy, because I think that the thing about that is, even with the depositing of the seed into the woman, it's like, they're still your counterpart, right? They're still the other half of that. It's like you're not depositing the seed into your palm and then boom, boom, you do it by yourself. You know what I mean? Like you're doing that with somebody else. And I think the role of support, the role of care, the role of sympathy, of compassion, of empathy, all of those supporting structures is a lot of things that toxic masculinity cuts out, right? And so then we see how patriarchy kind of moves into these kinds of fears where it's very rigid in its sense. And so even being compassionate, that's why there's, self-care and wellness is such a big thing, in my opinion, is because of that very thing, like to see support as just as valid as you building the actual tool itself, right? You need to sleep, you need to rest, you need to eat, you need to do all of these other things. And then you also need to do it in community, because isolation is a very big thing when it comes to patriarchy and masculinity. Even being a South African woman, and like, even what I said to you, like having this conversation with other Black men, I've had this conversation with white men, no worries, right? I've had, other conversations with lots of white people, but with the Black men, woo, that is a no-go zone, because there's also a lot of rage, I would assume. So I want to ask from you, like, where do you think the resistance comes from when it comes to having these conversations?
Well, I think because as Black men, we have been taught that, or we bought into the narratives that I was just explaining, right? In terms of the patriarchal system that we've all sort of grew up in, unfortunately, in that way, right? And we've been told that women are this, so therefore we have to act like that, right? And we've been told that we have to be, you know, the dominant ones, the stronger ones. And it's ingrained in us partly, but it's also conditioned by a lot of the things that we're taught, even as young boys, right? You're taught as a young boy, when you scratch your knee, get up, be a man, man up, right? When a young lady will scratch your knee, the mother or the father might rush to her, oh, are you okay, darling? Are you okay? Blah, 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 blah. Whereas with the boys, the fathers are like, come on, like, this is what life is about. You know, you gotta pick yourself back up again. But, you know, teaching our young boys to not be in touch with their feelings or how to express them are the beginning stages of toxic masculinity. Because what we're doing is we're saying that your feelings are not important as it is to continue in what we see as a perceived strength, which is to hide your feelings or not show weakness. Because we were taught that when you show emotion, it's a sign of weakness. Because remember, for us, a lot of what we've learned is through competition and through sport, right? So when we're playing sports, we're often told that you don't want your opponent to see how weak you are, right? So you gotta, even if you're in pain, you don't want to show it. You don't want to do it. Also, all these things that, and I always say that sports is a microcosm for real life, right? So a lot of these things that we learn as youth, right? Because I know, like, babies, you know, they don't care. Like, when a baby's hungry, the baby will cry. A boy baby or a girl, they'll cry. When they're hurt, they'll cry. But how we respond to them is what makes that difference, right? So when we respond with, oh, just, you know, toughen up, you know, man up, come on, you know, stop being like a little girl. Like we hear those things, right? As our young boys, and it feeds in and resonates within our subconscious, and then starts to mature later in life into full-blown toxic masculinity, where now we feel like, you know, we have to hide who we really are, and we got to be this tough, brooding guy. I am man, you are woman. Listen to me, I am the truth, right? And then we end up going into these cycles and these patterns that then give birth to misogyny and give birth to abuse and give birth to all these things that we see plaguing our, you know, our society. And for Black men, it's hard because we're already trying to fight for respect, but we have to also understand that the Black woman is doing it on both fronts. One, not from just being a woman, but also from being Black. So it's like a double-edged sword there, right? So it's like, you know, for Black men, we feel that we are tremendously oppressed, that we have had it, you know, hard because, you know, from the ancestry days and all that, but Black women were right there too. It wasn't just us that came across, that were dropped off all these different places. It was the Black women who were being raped, who were being forced to do all kind of different things, who were forced up to work too, you know, plus raise kids, do all these kind of different things. So we have this thing where we want everybody to feel for us, but in turn, we still want to objectify and to disrespect the queens and the co-laborers who are with us the whole entire time. So, you know, it's a lot of work and a lot of healing that we have to do as Black men, for sure.
100%.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's interesting that you touched on this. Fathers will be like, you know, pick yourself up, like, be a man and be stronger. I would counter that within this patriarchal, very traditional family setting, looking sometimes to mothers, because my friend Misha would sometimes say, she goes, mothers raise their daughters and they love their sons. So there's this double standard for mothers who like instill like a structure with their daughters, with their sons don't require that, you know, structure or that forward motion. And I don't want to say baby, but there's a little bit of coddling. And then that is juxtaposed like tension with fathers saying, you know, be a man. And like, so I think it's coming from all different layers and all different sides as to like creating and like cultivating this toxic masculinity, which when, you know, a man hits adulthood and then is challenged by a potential partner, they don't know what to do. They have not been given the skills or the coping mechanisms or the tools to actually look inward and go, oh wow, I need to like do the emotional work. And there's some grace I think that people have for men like that to a certain extent. And I think having these conversations is really good because it just helps us to go, there's nuances that we know we have to always keep in mind when we're talking about that and thinking about that. All that being said, we still got to hold all the men's to some sort of standard, some sort of
Yeah, absolutely.
bar.
And that's actually a really great point, because I think mothers do that thinking that they're trying to fashion and raise their sons in a manner to prepare them for the evil that is out there in the world, right? So they love them, but in a certain way where they think that they're preparing them by hardening them. Like I hear from a lot of single mothers too who do that when the father isn't there as well, whereas that now I gotta double up my effort too, because there's natural things that as a father I can teach my children that a mother can't. A mother can teach their children certain things just in terms of how I am as a man. However, a lot of amazing like mothers that I know are like, look, I got to prepare my son for this cold-hearted world. So I know I ain't raising, weak men. And like you said, a lot of mothers, that's the narrative that they're pushing too. So it's amazing, like when I hear that, right? And like, mothers will raise their daughters and then will love their son. That's a profound statement that when you really like dig deep and unpack it, you can see that, that's why guys, it's funny because you ever dare disrespect a guy, you disrespect his mom, disrespect his sister. Those are the two women in his life that you don't talk about. Otherwise, it's just on sight, like it's on and it's popping, and you're about to catch some hands, something. However, we don't view every other woman in the same way. So I may love my mom, I may love my sister. Don't ever disrespect them. Don't ever call them out their name. But then this young lady I see on the street, I behave and I act a totally different way. So the proximity in terms of the relationship that we have with women often dictates our treatment of women, which it should not be.
100%. Oh yeah.
Question. I think that, that all makes sense. And I think even talking with Elle too, like with her discussion, at what point, and I think this is where women are trying to figure out is, where do we give patience for men to start growing? And where do we kind of draw that line of, there's so much information out there. There's so many ways that you can actually like learn to see all the mistakes that you're making or whatever, or the I guess forming your mind and forming your own opinion and changing that narrative for your life to not be that man. Where do women give the patience to men? Because I think that is the biggest struggle is, do I continue giving patience for you to grow? Or do I just step back and be like, this person has to figure it out on their own?
Yeah, I think there's a fine line between grace and enabling behavior, right? And the truth is, the onus is not on women to help men change this way of us. We as men have to hold each other accountable, right? The same way that it's not incumbent upon Black people to erase or eradicate white supremacy, it's important for white people to hold each other accountable, right? So because we are the ones who are doing this, who are displaying this behavior, it's important for us. So when I see a display of disrespect or something, I have to call it out and hold my brother accountable, for his behavior, because he won't see it, right? That's why like it's so discouraging when you see a lot of these social media pages and all that, when constantly bickering between Black men and women on Twitter, and then they're posting it, they're resharing it, and you're seeing all the back and forth, and you look at the comments, it's the same thing. Women are like, oh my goodness, this is disrespectful, this is that. And guys like, oh, like it wasn't even that serious. I don't want to even call any names, but we've seen examples of just recently of a young guy entertainer dragging his girlfriend into the elevator extremely aggressively, and guys like, oh, it wasn't you call that abuse? What? And the women are like, what? And then it's like the same thing is happening. So unless we call each other out on it, unless we hold each other accountable, it will not stop. It will not change. So in terms of a woman's position, in terms of offering grace as an extension and enabling a chronic behavior, is such a tightrope that it's so hard to even answer, because I think it comes down to the individual man. Like that's like, there's some men you do not give any tolerance to because of the way that they are and how they operate and how they interact. If you're dealing with someone who's aware, it's almost like, I know this is not necessarily a spiritual conversation, but it's like when the concept of God, right? It's like you give grace, God gives grace to us to help us, give us that chance to correct. But then there's a time when you gotta just, you gotta just cut things off because you're not learning, and like you're not listening. So you gotta learn the hard way. So it's like, as a woman now, it's like, okay, you love this person, you see attributes that, you can see that. But if he has not have a level of awareness of what he's doing and isn't willing to take the steps, like, it's one thing to know that I've done something wrong. It's different to know it, acknowledge it, and work towards correcting it, right? So there's some people that are just persistent and pathological apologists for their behavior, thinking that will soothe things over, but not actually understanding that the greatest apology is change behavior, right? So in order to get to that place, women do have to step back and give men a wake-up call, like, look, I'm not dealing with this, I'm not naming. We see it time and time again. I don't want to even call these people's names, but in the entertainment business, you see Black women covering for these Black guys all the time. Even in that situation that we just talked about, the statement that she put out, I'm like, interesting. You covering again. Yes, I understand. You don't want to go to jail. You don't want him to get shot by the police, this and that, whatever the case may be. However, we have always been covered by the Black women. Our mothers have done it. Our aunts have done it. Our grandmothers have done it. But when are we going to take responsibility for our actions and call each other out and raise a standard of excellence to support our Black women and to say, look, this behavior is appalling. It's not right. We have to change it. So until we do that, it's going to be a continuing cycle of this kind of really destructive behavior.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think even for us, like culturally, like being African too, like we see that very prevalent in our cultures of the Black mother kind of protecting the son, right? In anything that he does. He can do no wrong. He doesn't have to do dishes. He doesn't have to clean. Like there's obviously certain households that is still like they're changing that. But in terms of that, like we see it all the time growing up that the conversation is always different. And so I think that even for you just saying that, it's so obvious in our culture. And sometimes it becomes to that same thing like you're saying, like domestic violence becomes like, we have to cover it up because we have to protect this person. Assault happens, we have to cover it up because we have to protect this man. And it's never, we have to protect this woman. And that's something that I know in Africa and a lot of countries are trying to change that, but it's gonna be a long, long change because it's so rooted into so much of our culture and tribalism, but also in our government systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and full transparency. Hopefully, people don't like get like look at me bad like when I see this, but I don't cook extremely well because for any future tenderonis out there, I'm just playing. I'm just joking. But the thing is this, right? My mom told me, I want you in the books. I want you to study. So stay out the kitchen, keep your head in the books, get your education. I'll deal with that. My dad grew up different. My dad is an amazing cook, right? Because he grew up in, back home in Trinidad, right? So he had to learn, fend for yourself. You had to cook. But here, my mom's like, I don't want that for you. I want you to focus on your books, study so that you have no excuse not to do well. So I did not go near the kitchen, and it's like, my sister was obviously very upset, because she's like, nah, that ain't right. But my mom was like, no, because boys, one, are slower learners than girls are at the elementary school age and stages, right? So she's like, no, I want to give you the best shot that I can. But at the same time, I'm here on my own and I'm making macaroni and cheese. Like, yeah, boy, but can't really cook that well. I'm like, yo. And then my dad will come over to my house and like, hey, boy. And then he'll come over and cook, right? but I'm taking lessons and I'm learning. You know what I'm saying? But just that as an example, right? As what you're saying is that, mothers want to give their sons because they, and again, there's this perception that we got to give our sons a better opportunity, a better chance because of the Black man, you're already at a major disadvantage. But how about the Black girls? It's the same thing. Just that we feel because you're a woman, you'll be more accepted, right? That because you're nicer, you're sweeter, you're kinder, you're this or that. But no, it does not work that way in society. So society will still, especially if you're Black, will always see you as Black first, right? So, I mean, mothers, I think sometimes do their sons a disservice in that realm, not helping them understand to be a full, well-rounded, domesticated, intelligent person. You got to do everything, right? You got to be able to do that, So, I mean, what you're saying is extremely true, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I even feel like the nuance that comes into all of that is like, especially with the grace bit, right? To give men the grace to grow is also like in a relationship sense, right? And I think that if we have to give that grace to grow, it also means tough love. It also means not being in relationships with y'all. It means not having situationships with y'all. It means not hooking up with y'all. And then it also means that for a large majority of these women or people who are interested in men, right, then they are single. Right. And then they must be able to deal or work through or also grow in that sense, because society is not built for people to be single, nor is it built for people to be isolated. Right. But people can be single and still have community. Right. Case in point, a lot of the people that we have around us in our communities. But, you know, then it's kind of that idea. It's like, how much room do I give you? Because am I then, like, if it takes you a whole lifetime, am I then single for a whole lifetime? Like, when are you going to get your stuff in order so that we can actually start building together? And also this idea of like, you know, maybe I can help them get there, where we all want to grow and heal together and help each other heal and grow, right? And I think that, yeah, how long must people be single for? Yo, I'm not taking it.
And the thing is, that's such an amazing example because, you know, that's the natural tendency of women, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we always think about the woman as being the helpmeet to the man and the support of the man and this and that. But truthfully, what they are the actual leaders, right? Because if you think about it, for those that maybe like are familiar with the Bible story where, you know, Adam and Eve, right? Eve gave Adam the apple, right? Adam was actually following her lead, because he didn't question her. He didn't do his research. He said, oh, okay, Eve, true? All right, good, give me that. Because so he was following. So when we think about Adam as the man, he was actually listening, because she went out and was doing whatever she was doing, brought this back, no questions asked, let me go and look, and let me go talk to this serpent guy over here. No, it was like, okay, you told me this information. I trust you. I believe you. You know, we are one. So whatever you say goes. So with women, it's like, you know, y'all are natural leaders. Y'all natural born leaders. That's just like what it is. Anything you need to get done, you always ask a woman, because she'll get it done faster, better, cheaper. You know, like y'all can turn like a $5, budget into like this amazing like buffet. It's in women to get things done and to do things. Like I had a conversation just last night on my show with two women who are cancer survivors, and one woman in particular who started this cancer organization support that helps women with breast cancer who are Black, because there's really not support services for Black women who are dealing with this. And again, when a woman sees an issue, she starts a solution. She creates a solution. That's what women do, right? So for us now, it's like, you know, it takes longer for us, one, to mature. Okay, I'm sorry. It takes us a long time to mature. Ladies, listen. Woo! Y'all gotta pack your patience. It takes us a long time. I know. Look at Elle. I was like, oh man. You know, it takes us a long time to mature. And one of the reasons for that, this is just me talking, this is just what I understand to be, because there's so much detoxing that we have to do. But the problem is we don't recognize that we have to do it. So all the time the coach told you to man up, stop being like a girl, you're a whiny sissy baby, you're this, you're that, all these things growing up, all these things that we're taught, right? And just the music that we listen to. Listen, I'll be 100 with y'all. Hip hop music has been one of the greatest contributors to this problem. And I am a hip hop junkie, I'm a hip hop head, but listen, rest in peace to DMX and Snoop when they had that verses last year. I was like, yeah, when I met you last night. Whoa. When I thought back, I'm like, yo, these lyrics, when you really take it in, right? It does not support, encourage, uplift, protect women, especially Black women, right? So when Queen Latifah came out in 1990, I'm not a B and I'm not an H, UNITY, you know, that was like, oh, whoa. But yet still, we've been churning out songs where that's all guys are calling women every single. Now, women have packaged that and used those terms of endearment, where you're calling your fellow sister a B, you're calling her a bad B, you're calling her and all this kind of stuff. So now it's like, okay, so you're taking that, trying to spin it into positive. Okay, however you want to do it. However, what's happened is it's normalized these things, right? So it normalizes this language that we started calling women that, because that's the official term for an actual female dog, like in like the world. Now we attribute that to a woman. We're calling that a human woman now, and then we're trying to use it in a disparaging manner. And then we say all these songs are saying it, filled with it. So now when I think about it, I'm like, okay, women are now taking on this role, because now the thing is for women to be like men. So a book came out the other day, not the other day, like several years ago, Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman. I don't like that personally. I don't subscribe to that stuff, because to me, no woman should ever want to think like a man. there is no incentive for a woman to want to think like us, okay? Because we got issues, okay? Straight up.
And y'all mature slower. Like, why do you want to go in reverse? This is like more.
Yeah, right. Come on, right? So it's like but everyone's like, oh yeah, that's so revolutionary. Oh yeah, let me get the book. Let me watch the movie. No, man. And there's a lot of things out there that I'm just learning, that there's actually men who are built their whole brand about chastising and admonishing Black women. Like, what? Who are you to say anything on that subject? Like, don't even get me started, y'all. Oh my gosh.
I mean, can we start on Derek Jackson? I'm just joking.
oh, you call it names. Okay, you call it names.
Listen, you might just do that.
Bring it up.
Okay. The whole show.
Yeah. I don't care if I say his name. That man, and this is my issue, and I can rant about this all day. And I told like my roommate, same thing. Like I talk to her all the time about this, because it is my, like, I have such an like irking towards like Black men marketing off of single Black women, because they know it's the number one target. They know how much money they can make, and they make books like Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman, or all these things, because they know it's like things in these books are common sense, but at the same time, they just know like a woman needs to hear, because like words of affirmation usually is something that women do gravitate towards. So it's like, if you're hearing a man talk like, oh, a woman, she like this, okay, I steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I will find a man. But the man you're finding is like we talked about, if they've not done self-awareness, if they've not done blah, blah, but you're like, oh, I'm doing all these steps, let me continue giving grace to this man who's not doing any self-awareness, and it just creates more toxic relationships. And then that's when women end up being more single or settling to the point where they're just like, well, I'm doing all the things, so if I continue doing this man will accept me. And that's why Derek Jackson is that whole point, is like he did a whole marketing scheme, made millions of dollars, but look at how he's treating his wife.
Yes, exactly. Case in point, right? No man should ever attempt to be the voice for how women should understand or should sort of position themselves or ready themselves for relationships. We are not the authorities on that. We can admonish other men on how to ready themselves and what they got to do, but this whole thing, and again, it's the patriarchal system where, oh wow, oh great, Derek, thank you for the illuminating. No, Black women have been saying the same thing this guy's been saying for generations. Like what are you even saying? That's revolutionary. No, because it's coming from a Black man who's married, although he's cheating, but because it's coming from a Black man who's married, and and there's another guy too who apparently on Instagram has shows, and he speaks very harsh to Black women that chime in and tells them to do this, to do that, fix that about yourself, do that, sitting on his in his ivory tower on his throne. Like, so all of that to me is toxic masculinity at its best, packaged as self-care, which is not.
And also,
sorry. I'm just gonna jump in here as the resident single woman here, because layered into all this is like the layer of like religion and like that system, and like I grew up in that space, and like I am working on what that looks like, spirituality away from like church systems. But the brain, with looking back at it, it feels like the brainwashing of like single women to do all those steps and to read all those books written by all these men, and then in the Christianity world, white men who don't understand the nuances of Black women or women of color. The most freeing thing I did, I think top 10, was throw out all those stupid books that I got from all those stupid women's conferences and be like, this is not working for me. I will sit here and wait and be single and be rich Auntie Elle until I need to be. I'm okay with that. That's good for me. I just want to throw it out there. Yeah, the layer of religion as well in that toxic masculinity is wild.
100%.
And I think also with that is this layer where, please don't come for me, y'all. Woo, okay. Is this layer where, because when we're believing, in God and, understanding it religiously, I'm really nervous to say this. It's kind of this understanding where some people think that is their cross, right? To be cheated on, to have a hard marriage, to be staying in this thing like continuously, like, oh no, God's testing me. Oh no, this is the test. But it's also like, what if that's God being like, no, leave. Like, this is the flag. And I think that, also then wrapping around that patriarchy, right? Is that idea of like, no, love should be hard. It's a struggle. Like, God won't give you anything that you can't stand or you can't tolerate. But it's like, yeah, but having to tolerate it, that resiliency, that strength, that strong dynamic, God didn't want you to be made of steel either, right? Like, He made us with human flesh on purpose. Do you know what I mean? That's why we run out of steam. That's why we need a rest. That's why when somebody's pissing you off or someone's cheating on you, you get so upset, right? It's like there's reasons why these things happen. I think we need to navigate more than just the idea of being saved or this is my road and this is my journey, because then we just kind of give up.
Yeah. And I think that's also part because the innate nature of a woman is to fix, to be the fixer. Right? To be the nurturer, to be the encourager, to be the one to take the broken pieces and to make it whole again, right? That's what women do. So you thinking that, this man, okay, first of all, it's like, whoo, Lord, I finally got him there. All right, he ain't perfect, Lord, but I'm gonna get him right, and then you start working the black girl magic, just try to get him up. First of all, y'all gonna go shopping trip, get that boy cleaned up. And then, take him to the barber, and all this kind of stuff. Take him to church, get some passes up, okay, all right, okay, he's back up, okay, he's ready. But what ends up happening, but the truth is, women, that's what you do, right? But you can't do it with a man. You just cannot do it. You can do it in your career, you can do it in any other walk of life, any space of life, but you cannot fix a man. You cannot. That man got to heal and fix himself with the help of God and therapy and resources and all that kind of stuff. That is the only way. But again, you always hear, the pickings are slim. You got to get what you can get. And, it's the settling thing, it's like, well, girl, my eggs, I mean, they in the freezer, what I'm saying? Like, I got to have some children, what I'm saying? Like I get any younger, the clock is ticking, the sands of the hourglass are dropping to the last grain, so are the days of our lives, and, I'm young and I'm restless, the bold and beautiful, whatever, it's just, and it's like, okay, well, I get that, but do you want to be unhappy for the rest of your life with someone that you're tied to because you've settled, or do you want to then have to break up with them, then find somebody else, break up with them, find somebody else, break up with them? So, waiting is truly, and I also believe that God is kind, right? In the sense that, He probably not sending you these guys on purpose to mess up your whole life anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because like, it just, God loves you too much to send a buster along to try to disrupt your whole, flow, right? And I mean, I think it's incumbent upon us as men to really do that work earlier in life, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to do, is try to help younger brothers. This whole thing about multiple women and running around doing all that stuff, but now it's changed too, y'all. Women are doing what they call the that H phase. Y'all know what I'm talking about, that phase, right? That where they out there, what I'm saying?
Talk to me, Kev. Talk to me. I'm a doctor. What you want, boo boo? I'm a doctor on that subject. Okay, talk to me. I'm ready.
Summer.
Okay.
Summer loading.
The education that is in a hot girl summer. First of all, I do get why it's not great for everybody. And I think that, obviously there are, it's like buying a car and then not wanting to like learn how to drive, right? Like there's a lot of stuff you're gonna have to do if you're in the H phase. Right. But I took it and I revamped it and I said, I went from H phase to get to know phase, right? Because I learned a lot about myself during that phase. But I think also I was at a point where I knew that it was an H phase. I wasn't just like, oh, I'm in for the relationship or I'm in for this. And I think that the intentionality of dating or doing these things, of learning yourself and then learning it with other people is also what's missing a little bit. What I'm curious about is, when did you figure out it was patriarchy? When did you learn about this? Were you just like a little kid studying and your sister was in the kitchen and you were like, oh yeah, I'm a boy just because I grew a beard. This is me.
I mean, I think every boy has that moment at some point in some time, but I think I think it for me, it probably started on the playground, like when a girl challenges you to like a race and then you beat her and like, yeah, yeah, what, like little boys are like that, right? And it's like, okay, and then, okay, now moving along in life, it's like, okay, well, okay, so, girls, okay, so you think so I think I'm stronger than her. Okay, so I think I'm stronger than her. Okay, then I think I'm better than her because I'm a boy, right? Because that's what I've been told. That's what I see in the movies. I see the men always rescuing the women. Okay, so yeah, I'm seeing the superheroes are all men and the women are always in distress. So that means, I gotta like, so it's all these things that I can't even probably pick a point in time when I figured out that, yeah, as a man, I'm obviously stronger, faster, probably smarter, but even though I'm not showing it because I don't try, because girls have to study hard and they got to really focus. But I mean, it comes natural because I'm a guy. So these are all things that we all boys go through, right? And then the music. Oh, don't get me started on the music, y'all. Oh my goodness, like the hyper sexualization of women plays such an important role in how men quicken their I guess mindset as it pertains to this topic, because from an early age, hip hop was it, right? So, if you notice, the tone and tenor of hip hop changed, right? In the 80s, you weren't really hearing that. Like when talking about, like Big Daddy Kane and all these guys, they're not talking about the subject matters that. And then you get closer to like the late 80s into the 90s, that whole era changed and it shifted to where men were really coming at women, right? Because there was this, like Queen Latifah and those were coming up, like MC Light coming up with, more women empowerment songs, and like, like we're not putting up with the disrespect. Like you see movies like Juice and Boys in the Hood and all that, the women are always there trying to support this guy that's going the wrong way, always going the wrong way, doing the wrong thing. But the Black woman is always there trying to steer him back, trying to help him back. So it's like, you see all these things and you're like, you can treat your woman any way and she still go be for me because she's a rider, yo. She ain't going nowhere, no matter how I treat her, because that's what we've been taught. So for me, I came from a really different structure, came from a really strong two-parent household where my mom was the more educated one, okay? Because she was a senior lab technician in the medical field and was working on her doctorate before she passed away. And my dad was more of the grinder, hard worker guy, but my mom was the one that really ran the finances and ran this and really ran the show. My mom, she ran the show, but she always gave him the respect and the honor that he was due as her husband, right? And deferred to him in certain respects. It's like, kind of like, that's our love language in a lot of ways, is respect, like men, right? We want to really be respected. That's how we interpret love a lot of times, right? So I saw that, right? Because I saw that my mom was, like she was the one that, if I had any issues with schoolwork, I can ask my dad. No disrespect to my dad. He just came from a different educational background, right? But my mom was the academic. She was the one that pushed me in education. She was the one that took me to all my practices and all that, because my dad was grinding, as an entrepreneur, trying to do his thing, trying to work. So my mom and I were extremely close, right? So that's why I have a different tilt, because I was a real mama's boy, right? However, still, even though I would never call a woman out her name or disrespect her or whatever, there's still residue of all that because of what I was taking in. You know what I'm saying? Like listening to a Wu-Tang Clan's Ice Cream, and all that kind of stuff. Listening to Snoop and listening to all these guys who I idolize, who I wanted to be like. So you figure, that's That's how it was. If a girl ever disrespects you, what you talking about, right? So these are the kind of things that when you see it played out before you, modeled before you, then you kind of become that in some form or fashion. But there's an awakening that we have to all go through at some point. And a lot of it comes through failed relationships. I've learned a lot from my failed relationships because the communication was the issue. Because although I'm not coming at you screaming and yelling, maybe my tone is extremely condescending. And condescending tone in and of itself can be a very toxic trait. I may be speaking to you in a manner where you think I'm speaking down to you, where I'm coming from up here, thinking that, I'm above you intellectually, or I think I'm above you because I have more education. So I'm talking to you in a manner which is also a form of this. I'm like, nah, I'm hearing guys cussing out their girl. I'm like, I don't do that. But the manner in which you're speaking may also be extremely offensive and contributing to the communication breakdown. So we have to learn. But if you don't learn from those things, you're never going to be, in the process of healing and working on yourself. And I tell you, therapy is good, y'all. I'm a proponent of it. Black men need it.
Yeah.
There's a narrative that we have to normalize. That we have to normalize, especially as Black men, because we're afraid of it. We think that it means that something's wrong with us, but it actually means that something's right with us because there's an awareness that we need to be, worked on and healed and, corrected. I know I talk a lot, y'all, so I apologize, but I just wanted to really say that the therapy component is really key in helping men's awareness. But getting us there is the work I'm trying to help do, which is get men more comfortable with that. And shout out to a lot of bigger public folks who are doing it, like Charlemagne and all these other guys who are really on the Black mental health front for men, saying, yo, guys, it's okay to talk. It's okay. I mean, we just saw DMX pass away. We saw, Kobe Bryant pass away last year, which was hard on our Black men because he was the guy that we grew up with looking at. And it's like, how do you deal with all the tears when you don't know why you're crying? You never met the guy in your whole life, but there's something in you that's triggering. There's some sort of, lingering issue that maybe that is resonating within you and connecting you to that feeling that you've never talked about ever to anybody. So those are the kind of things that we have to really do and steps that we got to take.
100%.
I have a question in regards, I mean, you can answer this the way you want to, but in raising a Black son, how are all these things that you're learning and discovering, and we're talking about raising and all this stuff, and like as a father, like what are aspects that you're like, okay, this is what I want to continue adding in, but also these are things I want to change, like as you talked about, like man up and stuff, like is there a way that you're choosing to be like, I'm being more intentional in this and this and this?
Yeah, I think the more as men, daughters really do that. They help soften you and like around you. I'm thankful for my girls too, right? But like when it comes to boys, it's like the tendency is to almost relive what you went through them, right? So automatically, I want to protect him from harm, but at the same time, I don't want him to like. I almost get triggered back to how I was taught, right? So it's like, you gotta man. No, I'm like, no, Kev, no, let him feel what he's feeling. Let's talk about it. Like what is it that hurts you? How can I? Because what happens is with young boys, when they internalize that, then they start to do all these aggressive outward, they start, exploding in different ways and all that, because that's what they think is an outward act of strength, right? But really strength comes through speaking and talking and showing and sharing and crying. Like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to express. So even when I was coaching basketball, and my stuff like that, like after devastating losses and our boys were crying on the bench, it's like, it's okay. We're not like, no, like some coaches are like, yo, stop crying. No, there are no tears in this game. Blah, 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 blah. And that is so toxic and it's so hurtful because, like I said, sports is a microcosm of real life. So you got to really take this opportunity to show the young boys and the young that it's okay to express how you feel. It's okay to be sad. It's okay. You don't have to be this strong, tough person all the time. Everybody goes through it. Like you see grown men crying in the NCAA tournament, when they get eliminated, and you see, finals victories and losses, people cry because it's real, right? So I think once they see it more, but as a father, it's important for us not to pass on those toxic things that we learned, but we got to be sure that we're healed first, because we will automatically do it without even realizing it. Like even like the rough housing and the playing, you know, with like toys. We want to make sure that we're giving them strong and rough and tough toys and giving them that rough treatment to toughen them up. But are you working on how he is going to be in touch with his emotional side of himself, his feelings, and how he's able to convey them? Because you're actually raising somebody's husband, right? You're actually raising somebody's, you know, future mate. And you don't want them to, you know, continue this pattern, this generational curse almost of this toxic, you know, nature. Because one, the society is like that anyway. You know, in all the commercials that we see, it's always the, you know, rarely, I know they're changing it now, but rarely do you see in car commercials the woman driving. I don't know if y'all ever noticed that. Rarely do you see, like in the family setting, the man is always driving, right? Why? Why? Why is the man always driving on the family vacation? Why is the woman always in the passenger seat? Why? You see, so these are small things that are microaggressive in how they are communicated to us, that men are in control, men are the leaders, men are the ones, men are the, no, but it's not always like that, you know? And I think for boys, especially, they got to see women as their equal from the beginning, you know? So that's why women are always fighting for that right, fighting for equality, fighting for recognition, you know, fighting to be paid, you know, equally for the same job, you know? So that's why men, we gotta do our best to help uplift and support that. And it starts with, you know, raising our boys in that manner, to respect women, to see them as their equal. No, Johnny, just because, you know, you stand up to go to the washroom and she sits down does not make you better. You know, it doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you any more powerful, stronger. It doesn't make you any of that stuff, right? So, you know, those are lessons that we're all learning. And you know, toxic men raise toxic sons. Yeah. You know, that's just the reality, right? And no matter how much nurturing and love that a woman does, sons want to be like their dad. That's their superhero, right? That's who they look to. So if they're seeing that, that's why you see a lot of times the cycle of abuse, because he witnessed his mom getting abused by his dad. So then which is crazy, because you would think that you want to protect the woman, but it's just something innate where it's like you've seen that, so you want to, you know, do that, right? So there's just so much work, y'all.
It's definitely subconscious, I think, as well, because when I work with my clients around things like emotional intelligence, which is essentially what I would advocate is that men need to kind of tap a little bit into, is their emotional side of the intelligence. Because you can have like abstract intelligence, you can have book smarts and stuff like that. But if you can't sit by yourself and like really cry or really feel like really sad, and, you know, be able to pull yourself out of it or not, right? I think it's also the flexibility of society to allow men to be able to take days off, right, for whatever the case is, as well. Thank you for joining us.
Sorry, y'all, I talk a lot.
It's perfect. I have so many other questions, but I don't want to make this a 2-hour conversation. I would rather we invite you for a part 2 instead. Sure, but yeah, thank you. Honestly, it's opened my eyes up to a lot of things, but I also feel like hearing these things come out of your mouth is different. Like it makes me feel different on the inside. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So it's not just me. Okay, this makes sense. So where can folks find out more about you? And do you have anything coming up that you'd like for them to tune into?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you all so much. It's always amazing having conversations with you queens. It's always a great enlightening time and fun, of course. Yeah, for sure. People can find me on the different social platforms. At KevJoseph_ on Instagram, at KevJoseph_ on Twitter. I'm actually was selected by Twitter to be a Twitter Spaces beta test host. So Twitter has a new thing, like, you know, Clubhouse, you know, that whole Clubhouse app. They have introduced their own audio app called, well, not audio app, but audio feature within the Twitter Space app, where you can have audio conversations in Twitter now, right? So they've selected a few people to kind of test it out, roll it out, give feedback, and you know, I was, you know, chosen as one of those. So I've been testing that out for Twitter, which has been great, having great conversations. So you can find me there as well. Yeah, I mean, you know, Let's Talk on Instagram is really doing well. I'm doing the Let's Talk series on Twitter now in the Twitter Spaces as well. I'm also doing some more projects that are coming up around, especially around mental health. I have one coming up for mental health with children, a virtual conference that I'm doing a partnership with an organization in Toronto that really does mental health programming for kids, because kids, excuse me, have been the forgotten ones a lot of times in the whole pandemic. You know, adults are talking about why they don't want to wear masks and all this stuff and all, but really it's the kids who are suffering the most, transitioning from being able to hug their friends to having to stand 6 feet away from them in class and all these kind of things. So we're trying to build some great programming to help, you know, kids cope with what this has been a really unprecedented year for them more than anybody. I mean, adults, we're more adaptable. Whether we complain, I mean, you know, as adults, we're always complaining, but the children are the ones who are really, really suffering, having a hard time. There's a lot of increase in, you know, like we said, domestic violence and, you know, even violence towards children, because they're home and they don't know how to behave sometimes because they don't know how to act and react to what they're going through. So a lot of that. I'm also doing some other really cool hosting gigs that people have been asking me to help them with, and, you know, really try to lead the way on some sort of other projects to really help build awareness around all the great things that Black folks are doing in Canada. So look out for more of that as well.
Oh, you're busy, eh?
I am.
Booked and busy, just getting in it. Thank you. This has been really, really epic. And we usually do like a takeaway at the end, but I feel like you did such a good job at your takeaway already, especially with Nataizya's question at the end as well. So thank you, folks, for tuning in to another episode. You can find us on Instagram at girl.youknowit. And then you can also, no, that's the us.
Girl, you know it.
Oh,
girl, you know it. Girl, you know it.
Sorry,
girl,
this conversation's really got me going. Really got me going. What did you say, Nataizya?
Oh, were you gonna say you could stream us or something? You seem so like lost at the end. You're like, I don't know what I want to say.
Yeah, I was like, individual ones, I forget. I mean, yeah, my mind's everywhere. But thank you so much for joining, folks.
Pleasure.
All righty, that was awesome with Kevin. I'm really glad we had his perspective on the podcast. How did y'all feel?
I thought it was really good. I like to hear his perspective, and I love to just have more Black men on this platform. I think that was definitely something we should have more conversations about. Who knows? We'll probably have part series. So,
100%. What about you, Elle?
I really appreciated what he was saying. I think that Kev is a really good historian in the way that he like speaks on how, you know, the patriarchy has affected him and how it's informed him, and then the work that he's been doing to dismantle it, and then how he's trying to help with other, like, you know, youth and other individuals within like the Black community to like dismantle it as well. I don't think I learned all that much. Like I think I had an idea, but it's always interesting to hear it re-emphasized, because sometimes, like, being so far removed from like men, I don't have a lot of male friends. Most of my friends are the husbands of my really good friends, right? But they're not my good friends. So, you know, you have an understanding, but then hearing Kev talk about like music and, you know, being raised by like his parents in a certain way, I think it was like, oh yeah, like it does really make an impact. Like, you know, we can sit here and go, why can't you just figure it out on your own? And it's like, oh yeah, no, there's actual nuances. So I appreciated that for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. And I'm really curious to see the kind of impact that's going to be made in the coming years. I think we're, you know, in this phase where, you know, maybe I'm already starting to see a rise in Black men who are talking about therapy and, you know, self-care and working on themselves and personal development, and then also working collectively as men to do this as well, right? Because it's one thing to do it as on your own as, you know, this individual, but if you're going to go into, for example, he uses sports quite a bit, right? If you go back into the locker room and you're the only one who's personally developing or growing, then you have to code switch even in that sense, right? Where you're like not the whatever you want to call the toxic, you know, person, and then you're this person when it's outside of that, and sometimes the lines can get a bit blurry. So I'm glad. I'm definitely waiting for a point where they can be meeting us here, because it's about time. But we'll give y'all some grace. Doesn't mean we're gonna date y'all. Doesn't mean we're gonna have situationships with y'all. Like, I'm calling it as is it. I'm sorry. I know I'm also not on the market, but if I was, Grace would be me by myself in a high ass tower eating grapes and making much money.
It's true. Just watching from above, just looking
Yeah.
down. Like, is it
Literally. Oh my gosh! Wow, this chick.
just sitting on like your porch and just like, are they done? Are they fixed themselves? Okay, nope. All right, let me just continue eating. No. Women need to start doing that. Like, stop waiting.
Exactly. Stop waiting. Okay. Well, yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, I really like your point about the collective thing. I think men need good friends. They need good groups of friends who they don't have to like emotionally code switch around. And I think as we move forward into like the next couple of years, I think we'll see more of that. The bromancing, like everyone's like, oh, you're bromance. Like, no, it's beautiful when men can be vulnerable with each other. Wow, like that's amazing. So I think we're gonna see it. I think we're gonna see more bromances, and I love it. I'm ready for it.
Oh, you're so cute because you're just like, no, it's so sweet. But if like a man would hear that, he'd be like, what are you talking about?
I
Like,
know.
That's my friend. That's just my homie. Like, so I just think it's how like we're like, oh, let's more love, men love each other, and they're like, that's just my homie. We just chill, we just play a game, we talk. Like, I just think it's funny, like the differences, because I can guarantee you, if they were doing a follow-up after this podcast, they would not be saying,
no,
we need more romance in our lives and love each other more.
Yeah, correct.
But no, but there is like, I can't remember right now, but J. Cole has a song, and like one of the lines, he's like, we don't talk about love no more as like in men. And he's just like hip hop songs, we don't talk about love, we don't talk about loving each other as men. And so it always reminds me of that because it's true. So,
yeah. Y'all need to talk about love some more. Y'all need to love up on each other, okay? Y'all need to love up on each other. I don't know how to do this other accent. I was trying. In any case, folks, thank you for joining us for another episode with Girl You Know It. You can follow us on Instagram at girl.youknowit, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. It's always amazing to get an opportunity to chat with these lovely ladies. So if you're looking to follow us off of the podcast and you're looking to catch up with some of the content that we have, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube, all at Black Women Connect Vancouver. And we also have a website for you at blackwomenconnectvancouver.com, which is where you can sign up for our mailing list and our newsletter so you can keep updated with our growth and all of the other events that we have planned for you.